695 Patriot. Rob, Philadelphia, you're on the Wilkow Majority. Hello.
Hey, Andrew. I've been listening to you for a couple of weeks now, and I can't figure out for the life of me what it is you're really fighting for, what you really stand for.
Well, I'm not fighting for anything.
You're not fighting.
Why do I have to be fighting for something?
I think you know what I mean. I'm saying I don't understand. I don't understand what kind of a world you envision or that you're trying or that you'd like to see, I guess is what I'm saying, because everything
Well, that would take too long. Why don't we play interviewee and interviewer, and you can interview me? Why don't you ask me some basic questions rather than try to get me to give you some vague worldview? What is it specifically that you don't understand about me or this program?
Okay. When I look at the situation, I'm somebody that you would probably consider liberal. When I look at the situation that's going on, for example, let's just take Wisconsin since it's current. There's no doubt that I live in a relatively rich area. The teachers here get paid pretty well. I don't think it's extraordinarily, but they get paid pretty well. I don't have a problem sitting here and saying, we probably need to do something about that. They don't, with their pay and their benefits, it's getting a little out of hand. I would probably agree with that. But when I look at all the problems that are going on, that's a drop in the bucket to me. That's not really the big problem that's going on. To me, the big problem that's going on is all the wealth is being accumulated by a few people. I don't think anyone can deny that.
Now, who are these people? Because we have this tendency, we have this tendency to leave out the entertainment sector of our economy, and we ignore what movie stars and singers and musicians and entertainers make, because we revere these people so much so to the point we allow someone like, and I use the word allow, I mean that intellectually, not legally. We allow someone like a Michael Moore to go on the Rachel Maddow program and complain about the so-called rich when both people talking are very, very wealthy. So if these wealthy liberals are so concerned with the concentration of wealth, they should deconcentrate their own wealth, then lead by example. Then you're going to hold on. Let me finish this. Give you all the time you need, because I don't think you're properly applying the word liberal. We hear people say Koch brothers this, Koch brothers that, Koch brothers this. Most of the people who are shouting off about the Koch brothers have no idea who they are. And if we're going to complain about billionaires involving themselves in politics, then we ought to look at George Soros and Michael Bloomberg and Warren Buffett. We ought to look at people like Oprah Winfrey. I mean, it's amazing to me how we select who the good rich are versus the bad rich, yet neither is actually putting its money where its mouth is. So if we're going to complain about the concentration of wealth, we shouldn't be listening to people who are part of the concentration of wealth, unless, of course, they're actually willing to jettison it, which they're not. So in this world that you've asked me about, this program is about rational thought and intellectual honesty. I look at someone like Michael Moore sounding off about rich people as intellectually dishonest because he himself is wildly wealthy. And and his complaint that the wealthy people aren't doing anything with their wealth to benefit the little people, tell me what it is that he does to benefit the little people.
Well, to that, if I could just respond really quickly, to that I would say I'd make two quick points. One is the entertainers that you're talking about aren't making policy. Number two, I think...
No. That's not what you said. We're not talking... You didn't say anything about policy. You said the concentration of wealth.
Yes.
So if the people who are going to if you're going to complain about concentrated wealth, how is it that you just ignore the highly concentrated wealth of the entertainment industry, which leans progressive, which is a liberal voice? When are the proletariats in the street going to seek to burn down Hollywood is what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying, but I didn't make any point about Hollywood. I would certainly include anybody.
Well, you went from concentrated wealth to policy. Now, most of these state senators in Wisconsin probably aren't anywhere near as wealthy as the people who are lambasting them.
Okay, that's fine, but we're not addressing the issue here. You're getting me off track.
No, I'm actually answering you directly, and you're not liking it.
No, it's not the direction that I wanted to go, and you're not addressing
it is the direction. You said concentration of wealth, then shifted to policy. Now, I can give you a laundry list of very wealthy policymakers.
It's a cause and effect. Policy equals constant is what's causing the concentration of wealth.
So the malevolent policy gave Beyonce Knowles $87 million last year. That's malevolent policy?
I was trying to find some common ground, and you're just not giving me an opportunity to talk.
No, I've given you all the opportunity.
I haven't had
you don't like the fact that I'm taking your thoughts to their logical conclusion.
I didn't even. You're doing it. It's your logical conclusion, not mine. I haven't even touched on what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, so I just wasted a whole bunch of time following your.
Did.
No, listen. You said the concentration of wealth. I've described to you some of the people who have this concentration of wealth, which you don't want to address.
Okay, look, let me make
No, do you want to confiscate the wealth of Bruce Springsteen?
I don't want to confiscate anybody's wealth.
Well, you just said the concentration of wealth is a problem. The only antidote to that is confiscation.
No, that's not true. You have to just change policies so that it becomes more even.
How do you do that?
What I was going to say is simply...
No. How do you do that?
Andrew, please, just one question.
You can't do this. You said change the policy. Change it to what? This is what we do on this program. We go to it's linear thought. You made a statement. I'm looking for clarification. You said change the policy to what?
If I knew I had an hour on the phone with you, I'd have no problem with this. But I know I'm going to get cut off any second now, so I'm trying to get to my point. But I'll answer your question.
Okay, so you're the victim. Go ahead.
I'm not a victim, but all right, I'll answer your question. Off the top of my head, a simple policy that we should. One of the biggest problems we have right now is not so much the spending as a massive lack of revenues, lack of tax revenues.
So confiscate.
One of the first things we should. Excuse me.
Taxes as confiscation.
Okay, if that's what you want to call it, that's fine. In my opinion, we need to change our tax code. There should be several more brackets to our tax code. It should not stop at $200,000 or whatever. We should have a tax bracket for $1 million. We should have a tax bracket for $10 million, so that all these people aren't being lumped into the same. A guy making $250,000 where I live is not rich.
Okay, I have floated this policy idea on this program long before you ever called in. I said that the highest marginal tax rate should go from $250,000 to $1 million, and then 1% per million from there forward. Do you think any of the rich people that are in those that would fall into those tax brackets are gonna let that happen? Like Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Boxer and Harry Reid and all the rest of them. Do you think they're?
No, you're right.
Okay,
you're right.
So it's not.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I think we could find common ground. My point is just that what I was really trying to get at, Andrew, is just that to me that's the biggest problem. That along with the corporations hold on all of our politicians, right and left. These are the biggest problems we have. And when I hear you arguing every day, I never actually hear how that's going to get fixed. That's what I'm saying.
What makes you think I think it needs to be fixed?
Well, then maybe you don't.
I don't.
Then maybe you don't. And that goes back to my initial question. What is it exactly you're fighting for then?
Well, if you want a short answer, I want to restrict the federal government to its 18 enumerated powers. I want to eliminate the ability of bureaucracies to pass regulations that are tantamount to law when they haven't been elected to do so. I don't care if they're appointed. I want to see a reining in of the overt and somewhat violent power of the public sector unions over the taxpayers. If you're asking me, you call yourself a liberal, where do you see the word liberty in your thought process?
Well, I said you would call me a liberal. I don't particularly like these titles, and I think they're pretty silly. I don't know anybody who's well, I shouldn't say that, but I'm more in the middle. But anyway, everything you just said sounds great. I don't think anyone would have necessarily a problem with most of those things, but you're also not addressing big. Those are easy things to spout out. I'm not hearing any real solutions in there.
What
problems?
Unless I can walk into Washington and ordain that all 535 lawmakers from the House up to the president are going to start saying to themselves, well, I guess we can't do that anymore. That's not in the Constitution. Well, I guess we can't do that anymore. It's not in the Constitution. Well, look, it says it's the 10th Amendment, so I guess the states are going to do that, and we have no real authority here. There's not a whole lot I can do about it except do exactly what you asked that I'm doing, which is to enlighten people on a radio program about their rights as citizens of a republic.
I think your show would be a lot better if you followed it out. A lot of the things you say then, followed it out to how it will, in the end, actually affect and create jobs and lift up the middle class and the lower class. Like, explain how that's going to work then, because I don't get that from you.
My job is not to create jobs here, sir. I host a radio program for those who wish to listen to it. I'm not an elected official. I'm not a sage of the people. I have a radio show. My ideas would create jobs. Liberty is the greatest engine of advancement. I don't know what more these people who are critics of me and the concepts of this program want. And it's what's even more bizarre is he's asking me to take my thoughts to a logical conclusion to make sense to him, yet I take his own thoughts to their logical conclusion, and they no longer make sense to him at all. What is it that I need to do on this program? I take thoughts to their logical conclusion. You don't like the concentration of wealth? Let's address it. And if we're going to address it, we can't just address the nameless, faceless, so-called rich people. We have to address the people who are in the spotlight that we know are rich. That's the way that it has to be. And if we're going to allow the people that we do know who are rich to demonize the ones that we don't know are rich, then we have a real problem here. And unfortunately for most people, and I'm not saying that life should be spent ensuring that one's read every document and every book and every treatise or manifesto. But if you don't even know what it was that Karl Marx called for, how are you going to know what you're hearing when somebody else is calling for exactly what he was calling for? And if the public sector unions are going to operate as a proxy government and control industry, then we would have social control of industry. This concept of workers owning the workplace is a Marxist idea. That workers own the workspace, not the people who hired them to work there. That by virtue of being on site, they own their workspace. If you believe that, then if you have a maid, she owns your house. If you have a landscaper, he owns your house. Anybody that works in and around your house owns your house because that's their workspace. Or is it only mass organized labor in industrial armies, which are called for in the pillars of communism? 1-866-95-PATRIOT. Are we having problems with this computer? All right, let's take the break here. We're right. They're wrong. The arguments cannot be broken. I apologize for wasting this entire segment on one caller where it went nowhere. Sirius XM Patriot.